The heat in Tyler, Texas, didn't just burn your skin, it sank into your bones, wrapped itself around you, made your clothes cling like wet paper. Even when the sun hung low, dripping honey-colored light over cracked sidewalks and leaning telephone poles, the air stayed stubbornly heavy, as if it, too, refused to move. For most folks, it was the hour to retreat indoors, to nurse cold sweet tea under the low hum of ceiling fans, or to drift half asleep on couches until the sun finally gave up. But Darnell Booker wasn't most folks. At 29, Darnell had the shoulders of a man used to lifting weight others never saw, responsibility, silence, patience. His co-workers at Cliff's Auto and Tire swore the man could pull an engine apart and put it back together before lunch, and usually did. A quiet man, slow to speak, quick to help. And today, that help was about to cost him everything. It was near closing time, around 5:30 p.m., when he heard it, clink, clink, clink. The sound of metal dragging along hot asphalt. He lifted his head from under the hood of a silver Chevy Malibu, sweat dripping from his brow, and caught sight of her. Tiny frame, wispy white hair stirring in the heat like tired feathers, skin weathered by time, yet her back held stubbornly straight. She guided a rust-bitten bicycle as if it had betrayed her somewhere between home and the corner store. The front wheel wobbled under each step, and the chain dangled loose, the way a necklace might slip from tired hands. She stopped at the edge of the lot, her shoulders rising and falling with exhausted breath. In her face, there was something familiar Darnell couldn't name, quiet pride dressed in old age. Darnell didn't even hesitate. He wiped his hands on a rag, smearing grease into older stains, and stepped out from under the awning. "Ma'am? You okay?" She looked up, eyes glassy, voice thin as wind slipping through screen doors. "It just stopped working. I live over on Morningside. Just going to the store." Darnell nodded, slow, reassuring. "Let me take a look at it." She hesitated, pressing dry lips together. "I don't have any money." He shrugged. "Didn't ask you for none." That got her to smile, faint and surprised, like the sun peeking through clouds. A tired smile, but real. He guided her to an old folding chair under the shade, fetched a bottle of water from the back fridge, cold enough to sweat droplets onto her hand as he placed it there. She thanked him with a look more than words. Then, he turned to the bike. It was ancient. Tires dry-rotted, spokes bent, rust on the gears like brown lace. But the frame, old steel, still had fight left. And if the frame had fight, so did he. He set to work. Chain off, cleaned and replaced. Tires pumped until they held shape again. Brakes adjusted. Found a small silver bell, left over from a customer who never picked it up, and bolted it on just because, a small dignity she hadn't asked for. Around him, the world melted into quiet. The other guys had clocked out, the boss, Victor Redmond, had rushed out earlier, probably headed to the local bar. The only soundtrack was the hiss of the air pump and the soft creak of old metal becoming useful again. When he wheeled the bike back, she looked at it as if it had come back from the dead. "You didn't have to do all that," she whispered. "I know," he said, voice just as soft, handing her the handlebars. "But I wanted to." She stared at him, searching for something. Maybe trying to remember his face, maybe measuring what kind of man would do this. Then, a small hand reached out, brushed his arm, fragile as tissue paper but steady. "You got a good heart, young man. Not many like you out here." He ducked his gaze, a flush creeping into his cheeks, hidden by sweat and sun. "Just glad you can get back home." She asked his name. "Darnell," he told her. "Darnell Booker." "Well, Darnell Booker," she said, voice almost playful, "you might have just changed my whole week." Then she climbed onto the seat, turned the pedals slow, and rolled away, the bell giving a soft ding, ding, as she disappeared down the block, backlit by the sinking sun. Darnell watched her until she turned the corner, wiped his brow again, and exhaled. To him, it was just another evening, another neighbor helped. But by dawn, it would become something else entirely. The next morning. The Texas sun doesn't rise so much as it pounces. By 7:50 a.m., it was already laying claim to every rooftop and sidewalk crack. Darnell pulled into Cliff's Auto and Tire, behind the wheel of his 1997 Tacoma. Green paint faded to gray in spots, the back window taped over with plastic sheeting that fluttered as he drove. It wasn't pretty, but it ran, and in Darnell's world, that counted for everything. The lot was quiet. Usually, he was the first one in. But today, Victor Redmond's black Silverado was parked out front, engine still ticking from the drive. Victor never showed up this early. A man in his late 50s with a neck that vanished into his shoulders, a face permanently flushed by whiskey or sun, no one could say. His laugh had an edge, his kindness came with conditions, and he liked folks who kept their heads down and questions to themselves. Darnell stepped through the glass door. The smell of burnt coffee and rubber hung heavy. Victor stood near the counter, arms folded tight, jaw set. "You got a minute, Darnell?" "Yeah," Darnell answered, glancing at the clock. "What's up?" "Come on back." They walked into the break room, scuffed linoleum floor, plastic chairs, vending machine humming low. Victor didn't sit. "I heard you stayed late yesterday," Victor said, voice even but clipped. "Yeah. Just helping somebody out," Darnell replied, careful. Victor's eyes narrowed, two slits under a heavy brow. "Ain't what I heard." "I heard you took company time and parts to fix some lady's busted-up bike for free." Darnell stood his ground. "Shop was closed. Used scrap parts. Stuff we were tossing anyway." Victor stepped closer, the air between them tightening. "That ain't your call to make." She was struggling, Victor. "Could barely walk. I couldn't let her." Victor's voice dropped, low as gravel. "You think this is a charity? Folks come here, get freebies, 'cause you feel sorry for them." Silence. The vending machine hummed louder. Darnell looked down, jaw clenched, searching for the words that would fix this. But there weren't any. Victor shook his head, a humorless laugh catching in his throat. "You know what? You're done. Pack your tools. You're fired. For helping somebody." Darnell heard himself say, voice barely above a whisper. "For disrespecting how I run my business," Victor snapped. "Now get your things and get out." Packing up. Darnell didn't slam the door. Didn't throw anything. Just walked back into the shop, hands steady despite the pounding of his heart. He pulled his dented red toolbox from under the workbench, the same one he'd carried in on his first day 4 years ago. His name was still scrawled on the lid in permanent marker, letters faded and scratched. One by one, he placed wrenches, screwdrivers, and sockets inside. Tools that had built engines, fixed brakes, and helped neighbors without asking for pay. Each clang of metal sounded final, like nails in a coffin. Other mechanics trickled in, eyes darting between Victor's office and Darnell's back. No one spoke. A few nodded, awkward, guilty. But no one dared question the boss. Darnell carried the toolbox out to his truck, set it in the passenger seat, and climbed behind the wheel. Hands on the steering wheel, he sat a moment, sweat rolling down his temple, jaw tight. He thought of his mother's words, spoken years ago. "It don't cost you nothing to be kind, but sometimes kindness will cost you everything else." Now, he knew what she meant. He turned the key, engine rumbling to life, and drove away from Cliff's Auto and Tire, leaving behind more than just a job. The porch and the message. Back home, he sat on the porch swing of his small duplex, the wood creaking under his weight. The swing had belonged to the last tenant, and the chains groaned each time he moved. A glass of sweet tea, gone warm in the sun, sat beside him. He replayed the conversation over and over. Each time, the words tasted bitter. Fired. For helping. Fired. Then, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text read. Is this the man who fixed the bike for my grandmother? Before he could answer, another text arrived, a video link. His thumb hesitated over the screen, then tapped. The video showed the same woman, standing beside the bike outside a grocery store. Someone had filmed her, voice soft but clear. This young man. I didn't catch his name. But he saw me struggling and fixed my bike like it was nothing. He didn't ask for a thing. He just helped. I wish there were more people like him. Darnell swallowed hard. The video was barely 2 hours old, but already had nearly 90,000 views. Comments scrolled faster than he could read. Where do we find men like this? Someone hire him. Faith in humanity, restored. He exhaled, thumb hovering over the screen, unsure what to feel, embarrassment, gratitude, disbelief. All this, because he'd done what he thought anyone should do. But what he didn't know, sitting there on the porch, was that the woman in the video wasn't just a stranger. And by sundown, everyone else would know exactly who she was, and who he had unknowingly helped. By nightfall, the world knew Darnell Booker's name, and so did Darnell, though he still couldn't quite believe it. He sat on that same porch swing long after the sun sank, rocking gently, the creak of the chains the only thing keeping him tethered to the moment. His phone buzzed non-stop. Numbers he didn't know. Messages from old classmates, neighbors, people he hadn't spoken to since high school. Terry, his cousin in Dallas, called 3 times before Darnell finally picked up. Bro. You see this? You're everywhere. They got your face on the local station. That clip of Miss Loretta, that's her name, Loretta something, it's got like 1 million views now. Man, you're trending. You famous, D. I ain't famous, Darnell said quietly. I'm just, tired. Terry laughed, voice bouncing through the cheap speaker. Man, you better wake up. You're about to get job offers left and right. But Darnell knew better. He'd worked too long, seen too much. He knew people loved a hero for 15 seconds, then forgot him when the next outrage showed up. He thanked Terry, hung up, and let the phone slip to the swing beside him. He wanted to believe his cousin. He wanted to think this moment would change things for the better. But all he felt was an ache in his chest and the memory of Victor's voice. You think this is a charity? You're fired. He closed his eyes. Somewhere, Miss Loretta was probably home safe, maybe sipping tea in a living room filled with old photos. Maybe she'd already forgotten about the man who fixed her bike. Maybe he'd wake up tomorrow and it'd all fade like a dream. But that wasn't how the world worked anymore. The town awakens. By morning, Cliff's Auto and Tire was the center of a storm. News vans circled the lot like buzzards. Camera crews filmed the dented sign out front, the cracked pavement, the smudged glass door. They angled for shots through grimy windows, hoping to catch Victor Redmond storming out. Inside, Victor was already unraveling. His phone wouldn't stop. Old customers called. Not to schedule oil changes, but to cancel them. One woman, Mrs. Pauline Kendrick, who'd brought her Dodge Caravan to Cliff's for 20 years, stomped in with her daughter filming live on Facebook. You the one who fired that boy? She barked at Victor from the front counter. Victor didn't look up from his computer. No comment. She leaned in, voice sharp as broken glass. He fixed Loretta Jameson's bike. You know who that is? My mother used to teach with her. That woman gave more to this town than you ever will. Victor slammed the keyboard, face flushing deeper red. Lady, I said, no comment. The woman's daughter cackled behind the phone, streaming it all. By the time they left, 3 more people were standing in the parking lot recording their own videos, customers pointing to the closed early sign taped to the front door. Online, the shop's reviews tanked. 1 star after another. Comments piled up, fired for kindness. Boycott Cliffs. Never coming back. Victor thought he could wait it out. He told his wife the fuss would blow over. But by noon, a news drone hovered over his house, broadcasting live to every local station. Darnell keeps his head down. While Victor cursed at a camera, Darnell tried to stay invisible. He woke up, made toast he didn't eat, poured coffee that went cold. He stood barefoot at the kitchen sink, staring at the trees out back, phone vibrating every few minutes. The number on the black business card Simone Renner's people had sent him, the one tucked into the envelope with the falcon crest, burned a hole on the counter. He hadn't called. Didn't know what he'd say if he did. He stepped out to the porch. Miss Pet, his neighbor from 2 doors down, was already there, a robe wrapped tight around her bony frame, hair wrapped in a faded scarf. "They watching you, baby," she said without greeting. "Who?" She sipped her coffee, eyes narrowed at the street. "Them black cars. Simone's people. They don't send them unless they want you to know they sent them." Darnell rubbed the bridge of his nose. "I didn't ask for none of this." Miss Pet chuckled low. "Lord, good don't care what you ask for. You reap it anyway." She patted his arm, her palm warm and steady. "Don't hide inside. Folks gonna wanna see you stand tall." She was right. So he sat on the swing again, feet planted firm on the porch boards, and let the neighborhood come to him. The visit to Victor. Mid-afternoon. Victor Redmond stood on his wide porch in sweatpants and a stained t-shirt, barefoot, clutching a mug he'd long since forgotten to sip from. He'd spent the night answering angry emails, deleting comments, cursing at news anchors. The rumble of engines pulled him from his daze. One black SUV turned onto his gravel drive, then another, then 5 more. They moved slow, quiet, as if the tires themselves didn't dare disturb the pine needles scattered across the yard. Victor squinted. What the hell? The SUVs parked nose to tail, blocking the driveway. 7 matte black beasts, windows tinted dark enough to swallow sunlight. Engines purred in unison. The front doors opened all at once. Out stepped men and women in dark suits, calm, unhurried, no shouting, no weapons. One woman approached, envelope in hand. Victor blinked, half expecting a camera crew to jump out. But this wasn't TV. "Mr. Redmond?" she asked, voice crisp but polite. He cleared his throat. "Who the hell are you?" She didn't answer. Just extended the envelope. Victor took it, tearing it open like it might bite him. Inside, one page, printed on the same thick stock Darnell had seen. Black falcon emblem embossed at the top corner. He read it once. His shoulders dropped. He read it again. His mug slipped from his hand, coffee splashing across the porch boards. The woman's eyes didn't flicker. "You have 24 hours," she said. "After that, this is no longer an offer. It becomes a consequence." Victor's mouth opened, then closed. The suits turned, climbed back into their SUVs. Engines growled low. The convoy rolled off the gravel drive, leaving Victor alone with the envelope and the growing pit in his gut. The town buzzes. Jerome, Darnell's neighbor, saw it first on a live stream. By dusk, everyone on the block was talking. A convoy of black SUVs at Victor's door. A man who fired an honest worker just got a visit from folks who didn't play. In barbershops and diners, folks whispered theories. Mafia? Feds? Secret investors? But Miss Pet knew. She leaned over her fence and told anyone who'd listen. "It's Simone Renner. That's who. She don't make noise unless the noise needs making." Back at the duplex. Darnell sat on his porch swing, envelope still on the side table next to the tea he hadn't touched. His phone buzzed again, teary. "Bro, you see Victor's place?" Man, they got 7 cars lined up at his door. People say he left town. Left a sign on the shop. Out for repairs. PSSH. Darnell let Thierry ramble, mind spinning slow and steady. 7 black SUVs for an old bike chain. He turned the envelope over in his hands, reading the single line inside over and over. I don't believe in handouts. I believe in investing in good people. Call the number. SR. Good people. His mama would have laughed at that. Don't mean you good 'cause you help somebody, baby. Good's what you do when nobody's watching and nobody claps. No one was clapping now. Just watching. He picked up the black business card, traced the falcon with his thumb, then set it down again. Not tonight, he thought. Not yet. The knock. He didn't have to decide. They decided for him. Just after dusk, when the cicadas started up their chorus and the street lamps flickered awake, another convoy rolled down the block, 7 black SUVs again, engines low, headlights cutting shadows across front lawns. They didn't stop at the curb this time. They pulled straight up his narrow driveway, tires rolling soft over cracked concrete. Miss Pett stood in her doorway, arms folded. Jerome stepped onto his porch, phone recording. The whole street held its breath. One by one, the doors opened. The same calm suits, same steady silence. This time, a tall man in a gray suit, darker skin, low fade, watch glinting on his wrist, stepped forward, stopping at the foot of Darnell's porch. You Darnell Booker, the man asked, voice calm, eyes unwavering. Darnell rose from the swing. Yeah. The man nodded, pulled an envelope from his inside jacket pocket, handed it up to him. Ms. Renner asked me to deliver this. Darnell took it. The man tipped his head once, a gesture of respect, then turned. No extra words. The suits retreated, doors shut, engines purred. The SUVs pulled off the driveway, turned the corner, gone like they'd never been there at all. Darnell stood there, the envelope heavy in his hand. Inside, something more than thanks. An invitation. A warning. A choice. He stepped back inside, closed the door behind him, and sat at his kitchen table. He didn't open it yet. He let his hands rest on it, palms flat, as if it might disappear if he blinked. Then, slowly, he peeled it open.